What's up, everyone? Tyler Tamboline here, aka ToeTagginTambo, back for another edition of the PGA Show here on the ShipNation YouTube station. Got my guy Hoopster here with me, as always. Going to break down all things for the Truist Championship. Hoopster, we got another no cut. You love these events, by the way. You got the 72 man, the best in the world. San Scotty, obviously he's not in there after the big win last week over a touchdown win for Scotty, but we're back. We got a great field and some good tournaments over on DraftKings. What's going on, man? How you doing?
Yeah, I mean, like we continue to talk about it, it's majors or signature events. Outside of that, it's like, really dusty fields. I mean, kudos to Scotty for getting the job done, but it's like, if the top pitcher in baseball goes and does a minor league rehab start somewhere and just absolutely dust the minor league team, I mean, it's kind of what it is. Good for him, obviously, but just not all that appealing. So at least we get some big names here this week, big prizes, obviously. Across the industry, and it should be a nice stretch with the PGA Championship coming up next week. But solid field. I think 72 guys. Jason Day did just withdraw, and then Patrick Rogers is coming in, but it does not have a salary on DraftKings yet. I imagine it'll be like in the 6K range when they add him in there. But yeah, solid field. Looking forward to talking through it with you.
Yeah, usually Jason Day waits to does the Florida stuff when he WDs, goes to Disney, but not in Philadelphia. And speaking of that, new course this week. So none of this course history stuff or all that going back. We're going to be looking at it from just sort of a whole new perspective. We got some inside track in the Discord today. I thought was awesome. Some of the members bringing some stuff from members, bringing stuff from members of the course. So I know there's people out there that watch YouTube videos of people that have played it, all this, that, and the other. But I thought that was some awesome insight over in our Discord. If you're not yet a member at ShipIt, now is the time to join. There's a big major coming up next week. You could still use this, save $75 off your first payment. So it's $24 for an entire month. It gets you all the sports we cover. Just go to shipitnation.com. You'll be able to see all the sports up top. You use code DGEN75 on our $99 a month all access with optimizer plan. That's Sabersim for your optimizer. We'll go through it more with that in a little bit. We've got the starter and the ultimate package that we're using to go through and look at things, but you can check that out for just $24 for your first month. Now would be the time with the major next week. And Hoopster, new course. What are your sort of takeaways coming into this one? Because I saw the tee times just came out, and it looks like they bunched them all up together just to sort of play them all right around the same time. So I think it just comes down to more how you think the course is going to play.
Yeah, I mean, it's not really going to be much of a weather edge, regardless of what sort of weather situation we have. And that's kind of the case usually when we get these no-cut events. Because, again, the tee times are pretty stacked in there, and it's not big discrepancies in when guys do tee off. And then a new course, it's we're not going to have like the course history. So anytime this sort of thing pops up, I'm just looking at overall solid golfers, right? Like guys that are good in kind of all facets of the game. It's a shorter course. You have to imagine that some of the shorter hitters are in play here as well, like more so than a long course. So it's a unique sort of week, obviously, because a lot of times we do have course history to go off of. Don't really have that, obviously, this week. So you're just looking certain skill sets that you might be trying to attack this week. But that's kind of where we're at.
Yeah, a lot of people are saying too, like it's soaked right now, and thinking the bomber approach is going to be better, and sort of how they're looking at it. But I guess we'll have to wait and see. Anyway, this is going to be a fun one, I think, and then it just comes down to looking at the player pool. We're going to spend time in Sabersim actually looking at what we always do, which is how people are playing the game. Talk about this a ton with people. I've had a ton of calls with other DFS players too, and saying that they spend so much time on these content shows. We've been going back and forth in the Discord about this, like the amount of time some people spend on just, listening to content. I know we're doing content, so you think but it's content that doesn't actually talk about the game that's being played and looking at it how we do it. So I think that's a big difference. Watching the show each week and hearing people comment on what we do is actually going to look at how the field's playing or is expected to play, what we can do to sort of leverage against that or ways that we can play differently. And I think that's a key component, whereas a lot of people are spending time on just entertainment and fun. I'm not against that, but I do think there's something to be said for those that are playing at the highest level or having more success, consistent process, things like that. You have to sort of dial it in. So we'll spend time on that. Is there anything else just from a no-cut perspective, Hoop, that you want to bring up? I mean, one thing that was said today that I thought was quite interesting is that it is the week before a major. So do they really want to just hammer these guys? They're already, it's next week. I know it's the PGA Championship and people make fun of it. It's not the US Open. It's not the Masters. Or the Open. But, this is usually not a spot where they want to just pound these guys, right? So I think there will be some scoring here for sure.
Absolutely. I mean, I definitely anticipate scoring here. I anticipate, big under par score to win this week. And, a lot of times before majors or big events, people are, oh, what's the motivation? Well, it is nice that it is actually like a signature event. So the prize pool is pretty damn big. Like I think it's like 20 million, and I'm sure it's like 3 or 4 million to first. So they're going to be incentivized to win. So you don't have to worry about, oh, is this guy just coming here to get his game right? Like I'm not factoring that in at all. And in terms of a no-cut event, obviously stars and scrubs sort of build more in play because your guys are obviously going to get all 4 rounds, assuming they don't WD at any point. So I think stars and scrubs will be a popular build this week for sure. And, the mid tier as we go through, you'll see, I don't think is super, super strong. So I think we could even see more stars and scrubs this week than we normally see.
Yeah, and also too, I will say, just going back, again, it seems like not a lot of people follow this fully enough or look into it or actually review and go back and whatnot. But it's just those low rounds too that you need to have, right? Like I know it sounds like second nature. Oh, I get it, but how do you know this, that, and the other? It's like that's why I'm looking. I'm never against in a no cut, regardless of what everybody else is telling you the stat profile is. Just looking for the super volatile players that can have a couple nuke rounds, because a couple of 65s. Even if it comes with a 71 and a 68 or something, while others have, 69, 69, 70, 68, they probably crushed them on the scorecard. There's eagles or whatever there is. If there's, chip ins, things like that, you'll find there's streaks. There's all these different ways to get there. So just keep that in mind when you're playing a no cut. That stuff comes to fruition more often than you would think. And it's like, oh, I felt like they didn't even really do anything, or they weren't even all the way up the board. No, they just scored really well for 2 rounds. Those rounds go a long way in these tournaments. So you got Sabersim up? We could start there and sort of just see what we're looking at here for this week, and then roll it out from there.
Yeah, so I did kind of the standard. I went in, built 1,000 teams, didn't change anything. Sabersim projection, Sabersim ownership is currently showing up. So, and I sorted by projected score, which I like. Sometimes we were using SaberScore, but I like sorting by projected score just to see what we get based on the projections and kind of what I expected here. So I got 150 teams. Rory is 12,000, and we got 95%, 98% Rory in these lineups based on projected score. No surprise there at all. It's going to be very easy to play Rory. I actually wish they would have given him kind of the Scotty treatment and got him a little closer to 13,000. I think that would have kept his ownership in check a little bit. 12,000. I mean, it's just easy to play him, and it's easy. Not only is it easy to play him, it's easy to play him with like another stud. Like if you play Rory by himself, you still got $7,600 left per spot. Very easy to fill that in. Let's say you want to play Rory with another stud. I'm just clicking Patrick Cantlay. Still over 7,000. Like you're $7,125 left per spot. It's just easy to play Rory this week, and they're showing 45%. I wouldn't be surprised if it gets over 50. I don't know if that's like crazy or anything, but I just imagine like a lot of people are going to be clicking that name. He's been playing so well, and it's just not that hard to play him. So you're going to get a ton of Rory, as you can see here. And I guess that's probably like the main initial takeaway just looking at this. I'm not surprised at all. I figured this would be the case. And I think the ownership comes up even higher than this 45%.
Yeah, it is what it is. I know it's kind of does suck, but like I said, we'll just take what we get. But we liked how they did Scotty's price last week. The thing here is it's a no cut signature event. There is legit dudes in the 6K range that you definitely feel very comfortable clicking. So to your original point of stars and scrubs, and then tying it together with your Rory ownership call, I think we're more in that realm. A couple notes there, like Ross says, winner's purse, decent motivation. You mentioned that, and then Scooter and him both mentioned the caddy flips. Well, obviously Homa has a new caddy because Homa's old caddy went to JT, picked up a win at the Heritage Open, and now he hops on. I think Colin picked up the phone right away and was like, if you can revive JT, I'm a pretty good ball striker myself. Maybe you can help me out. Come on over. And Colin got Max Homa's old caddy in there. So I think that's pretty interesting. This is a good thing too. Ross, all the comments today, I like it, but said Bobby Mack can't miss the cut. Don't mind him at the Jason Day price point. Don't think the Jason Day withdrawal was late enough for people just to pivot, right? Like, if this was a last second Jason Day withdrawal, you would see everybody just run to move to Bobby Mack. And I know it's not fully what you're saying, but just noting that that's just kind of the point as well. And then the last one here was Andrew. This is fine. I think like taking in both is a good idea. I guess a lot of people tell me they take in these additional shows because they want to know what everybody's doing and they want to pick up the stuff around the industry. But most of those people don't really know or haven't learned enough to apply it, I find. And that's the tricky part. And so I just use the analogy hoop of like, if you're going on I'm in the big health zone right now, but if you're going on a diet, like you can get away with a cheat meal if you eat good for 2 weeks straight or something, or, you're on track and you all of a sudden pick up a cheat meal. It's not going to kill you. But if you are really trying to lose the weight, or in this analogy, win the money, you should spend more time on like working on your game, seeing how tools like Sabersim can put you in the position to actually see what things do. And we're going to do some of that here in a minute. What's your thoughts?
Well, it's kind of like a metaphor of how we've built our business, right? You can listen to as many shows as you want and pick up little nuggets here and there. I mean, there's people that not even in the DFS space, but other spaces where I listen to their stuff. I don't necessarily, love them as content creators, whatever it is, but you can pick up pieces of information from anyone, little nuggets here and there. And it's the same with like our DFS content. Like there's not an answer. There's not one answer. There's not one piece of content that's going to give you the absolute path to victory. Yet, maybe one night we absolutely nail our cores for MLB or golf or whatever it is. And that was the answer that day, but that's not going to be the answer every single day. So that's why we created like the all encompassing product where we got the, for golf, the course fit rankings, the value report, the slate plan, which is basically 3 different pieces of information. We got the Discord community. We got the partnership with Saber. Like you got to tie everything together. It's not one thing that's the answer. So I'm good listening to different people, but just know that there's no, this guy has the answer this week sort of thing. It's like,
people have a hard time like remembering where they got it. To your point, if you're using all of our stuff, like they're all pieces of the puzzle, find your process, right? Put it all together and be able to make it happen that way. So I definitely like that call. And I think this is an example like what you'll do here. So you just did a dry run. What I would do next, somebody asked me about this yesterday. I'm not sure your thoughts. I love that we're going by projected score now. I mean, that was asked of me as well. I think that's a key point is let's not look at Saber Score is going to give you great lineups if you have nothing else. So why not use Saber Score? But for a dry run, use it how the average player is using it. And clearly Rory's that easy to fit. But I don't think, Hoop, that anybody or many, I always say anybody, many people will go almost 100% Rory. So if you just go to your exposure and cap at like 60, let's say, let's be more realistic with it. The reason I like to do that as part of my dry run process on a week like this is because it will tell me, it'll give off more ownership. It doesn't just, everyone always thinks like, oh, does that just put it all to Colin? No, it's going to disperse it some up there, but then it's also going to change some of the value plays. And that gives me more of a true idea on a dry run of what people are going to do. So I would apply that once you make the change and see what we get for exposures from there.
I just wanted to add on one thing. So definitely that is one way to do it. And then another way to do it, which I've done both and I do both, is sort it by salary and say, I know I'm getting 90%, 98% Rory. So that means there's guys up top that I'm not getting much of. Are any of these guys priorities for me? Like, do I definitely want a good chunk of Colin or Xander or JT? And if that is the case, set some minimums here. Say, make sure I'm getting, I really like Xander. Make sure I'm getting 20% Xander. And I do also, let's say you like Morikawa. I want at least 20 Morikawa. And you've set the cap here. What is going to happen no matter what, even if you don't set the cap, the Rory number is going to come down. So you can do either way or both ways and see. So now we're still getting the 85, or let's say we're just, we don't want more than 60. What does that do for us? Got 60. We're getting 26 Morikawa now. We're getting 25 Xander. We're getting more JT as well. So by capping Rory, we're getting more JT, and it's spread out to a lot of guys up top by just making those 2 moves. Like, didn't really need to do too much else. I mean, now, 26 Morikawa, 25 Xander, 17 JT, getting 23 Ludwig, getting 33% Cantlay. And again, it's back to the point that we made in the opening, and I made it and you agreed with me, is the fact that it's just very easy to play Rory and still get exposure to all these guys up top. It's very soft pricing, I'd say, overall this week. And it's going to be a lot of teams like this. It's not going to be just Rory and a bunch of cheap dudes. It's going to be Rory, someone else up here, whether it's Colin, Xander, JT, Ludwig, Patrick Cantlay, any of these dudes. It's going to be 2 of those guys, right, in most builds. And then it's going to be, whatever fits on the cheap end. And you can see it with these teams. Rory Ludwig, 4 guys 7,700 or below. Rory Ludwig, 4 guys 7,400 and below. Rory Morikawa. And you look at these teams, right? You play the 2 most expensive guys, Rory and Morikawa. You're still getting like 4 legit golfers to go with them. It's not like you're playing like a complete shithead. Getting Pendrith, Akshay, Michael Kim. I guess Fowler could be considered a shithead, but 6,300.
6,300 is kind of priced in. Yeah, there's definitely something there for that. So
it's this is, I guess, a little bit different. You got Rory, Daniel Berger, and Keegan Bradley. Back to Rory Cantlay.
Love with Berger when it went to the 2.8K guys, you still didn't get the 6K guy, right? It just went Berger.
Yeah, and no 6K. Yeah, right.
6K. So anything like 2 or more 6K, it's funny because even though a lot of these are still what we would be considering stars and scrubs, it's still not really requiring multiple 6K guys, when in reality there's probably multiples that you could use. And I think if you did have, again, we have it, but we're not just trying to sell it here just to say it, but if you had the ultimate package and you were looking at contest sims, oftentimes you're going to see that and you're going to be like, oh, it's not even that big of a change, but I'm now allowed to still play a bunch of Rory this way. And that was the thing last week, Hoop, is with the Scotty lineups. And you can do the same this week with Rory, to be honest. Nothing to do with weather waves or anything like that. I always talk about building in sets, but last week you could take and I had a bunch of this, but your best Scotty lineups in your Saber score, even if you don't have ultimate package, or in your contest sims, if you do have ultimate package, you'd be able to see your best Scotty lineups and what those looked like. And last week, the answer was Scotty with a bunch of guys under 10%. And you were able to still get unique lineups that were just fine. They still had good golfers in them. They still projected well, et cetera, et cetera. It'll kind of do the work for you. The tool really steps in and makes that happen. And I guess, I don't know if you use this, but Andrew asked, do you guys use the value column much in Sabersim? I mean, it's automatically putting better values into your lineup. Yeah. That's where you got to make some stands and decide on these value plays on how you're going to play.
You can, but I mean, really, the better the value, the higher own the guy comes in at, I guess. Like, you're going to get a lot of those guys. Like, the best values you're going to get in a lot of your lineups. So you can. I like looking at it more for other sports. I don't look at it a ton, but other sports, I think it makes more sense. Like PGA, especially for the main slate. Like, I don't necessarily think it's super important, but you can look at it again. It's like we talked about in the open, it's about finding your process, and if that's helpful in your process, certainly do.
Can you go ahead and use it to it for a second, actually, because I will point out something you just said is perfect that I think we can add on to. This will probably be helpful for people, but if you go to the value column, I guess, go back to sorting it by salary before you do so. Like, the main thing I want to show people, this is kind of Hoop a baseball trick in the sense of, you go to you've seen it for years. You play baseball forever and crush it. It's you. Yeah. By the way, congrats. The other night, a 50K shipper at MLB's been on fire. Shout out to our guy Shalou, 350K. Rio's won it a couple times. A lot of members finding success in MLB. Shout out Nades, putting out some good cores the other night too. Just to bring it up though, like you look at stacks, you're like, well, everyone's clearly on the Braves tonight. You used to do this all the time with late night Dodgers.
Yeah.
They're an amazing stack. If you put it side by side, some people are clicking them. Some people are waiting to play them later on, but others can't, right? They got to just get it in early, push their chips in. They can't wait and be patient. If you sort by price, which you just did, and see values and go down to the bottom, I don't know exactly who's going to be the most popular value, but whoever it might be, find a value that's really popping. And then you see, Pendrith, who's like just above and below him. Look, 88892, 885, 902. Like, these values cannot all be chalk. So if you find something like that where someone is a popular, the reason they're chalk is like Hoop said, the value's getting pushed in the optimizer, the value's making them show up to everyone and then people get it in their head that they must be a good play. If you can take the stone over on ShipItNation and match up these values with it to be able to see and say, wow, I got 3 guys around Pendrith that are all really good values. And in the stone, I see even this step further. I see this course fit ranking. I see this number beside them, and they still have a pretty good projection. Well, it's just a median projection anyway. One nuke round one way or the other, and you've got the guy. So if you want to use the value column like that, I think that's the way to do it, where you can use it to your advantage and sort of find the next best stack in baseball. You're finding the next best value golfer in PGA.
Yeah. And the one thing for sure that, again, this is the overarching big picture sort of thing. The one thing for sure that the value column is going to tell us this week, and there's no doubt about it, you sort by value and you see, oh wait, the best value on the slate's 6,200. The second best value is 6,400. The third best value is 6,100. The fourth is 6,300, and so on. What is this going to tell us? Stars and Scrubs is going to be very, very popular this week for this reason, because the best values on the slate are dirt cheap. And then it's forcing some of the high end guys, which is exactly what we saw in our lineups when we kind of started to go through them. And very important this week. We'll go through the tiers and talk about some plays that stand out for sure. But like, roster construction is very, very important this week. There's no denying that. So let's see some, I guess, what non-Rory teams and see what they kind of look like. And it's going to be three expensive guys probably, because you can get in the three and not sacrifice much. That's going to be my prediction. I haven't looked. Let's see. First lineup, correct. Schauffele, Ludwig, Cantlay. And then you're not even look at the teams. You're just not even sacrificing much to get three of those guys in.
Well, it goes to even more stars and scrubs when Rory's out of the lineup, because now you actually pick up.
You're going to play three of those guys. Yeah, most of the teams will be Rory and one other. Now it's going to be three of those guys up top. And it's really hard not to build this way, right? Because you want the win equity up top. It just looks so easy. The one thing I can tell you for sure this week, if you go balanced, you'll be different. Do I think it's the right way to go? Probably not. I mean, there's just, to me, when we go through the tiers, there's not a ton of win equity in there, but going balanced is definitely going to be different, as you can see by all these teams. 3 spends, 2. So here's Colin Morikawa, Ludwig, and then kind of 8K, 7-6, back to the 3 studs, 2 studs, 3 stud, if you consider Spieth a stud, which I actually kind of like him this week, so I'm good with that. But
last week, do you see him battle even on Sunday? He came through clutch, thought that was solid.
Yeah, so you're just not going to see many teams going like Lowry, McNeely. Like, the balanced build is just not going to be popular at all this week. So if you like the balanced build, you have nothing to worry about in terms of ownership, because you're going to be different right out of the gate. That's pretty much what this dry run tells me.
Yeah, I'll keep that there for a sec. I want to do another change in a second, but I will say too, this is another thing that goes overlooked, I think, in PGA DFS is and it's seems obvious, and for some it will be, but for those that don't understand it, is the concept. So we talked about the Rory price earlier, and you can't remove him. He exists. It's Rory McIlroy. He's coming off winning the career Grand Slam. Maybe he freed up completely and pulls a Scotty here and beats this field. There's a stronger field, but he beats him by 5 or 6, but we'll see. But I'm saying you can't just remove him. But when you do, in the example you did of building lineups and being able to see it, the price on Colin Morikawa is insane. The price on shit, these guys are barely over 10K. That's what makes it so different and so quote unquote bad. Because if you're like, oh, I'm going to build balance and I think Ludwig is going to win, that's very possible. Ludwig could win this tournament at a price of 9,800. But it's still so easy to stack another dude right on top of him that having him in as your first guy and then hoping to get all the rest right. It's not saying it can't happen. Yeah. It's saying that explanation still matters, because people are like, well, if I'm playing him, he has to be a pivot to JT. Well, what if JT scores like he does at these no cuts like crazy, comes 5th, still scores, but Ludwig wins? And the answer was actually both. That's why you have to be careful when people are just like pivot versus thinking about the whole picture. No matter what, there's a million value plays in there that you can use. We just saw them all. And there's 6K guys for days, and there's all kinds of things that you can do differently. So while you're here, now what I like to do is if you can sort by exposure again, even with your adjustments you made for Rory, and just sort of keep that on the screen. Now let's do this. I think this is better to branch into versus just going straight to the tiers, is change it from projected score to Saber score and just see. And to be honest, but it doesn't matter now, but just of note, what I would typically do, just so people out there know and they could try this on their own, is I would open, and it's starter plans and above, but I would open build 2. Or take a picture, a screenshot, like your own thing, whatever you do. I'm an old, you can take a picture of it and say, okay, what did I have on these guys? And let me go and compare. Because a lot of the times, that'll tell you, and it's not going to be a secret with Rory McIlroy, but let's say a value play pops up like crazy, and then they still pop up like crazy, that something about them still makes sense in both runs. Well, then that's something that you could sort of consider, and that's how you could start to look at your virtual hand builds for single entry and things like that. So what are we seeing differently when you moved it to Saber score? It looks like Rory really came down some. Yeah. It evened out that upper level, right?
Yeah, Rory came down, and it's obviously because of this number right here, the big ownership. They're going to want to make some plays on high owned guys, and Rory comes down to 40%. Morikawa comes up quite a bit in that top tier. Xander kind of stays the same. He was right in that range. Let me just see what some of these other dudes at the top.
Might be
JT, Ludwig, Cantlay, they're still right there around the 20. The main thing is Rory came down, Morikawa came up. In terms of like the value plays, it looks like it may have gotten sorted out or spread out a little bit more. Michael Kim, Taylor Pendrith, Ben Griffin, Siwoo. I will say the ownership or we're getting a little less on Cantlay. Looking at the builds, they are a little bit different. It's not Rory another spend. It's Rory and hitting this mid tier, which we didn't see a lot of in the projected score build. It's Morikawa hitting the mid tier. Here's one of those other ones, Rory and Ludwig, and then other guys, Xander, Ludwig. This would be like a different sort of build right here with Hideki, Rory, Ludwig, JT, Ludwig. So back to like the 3 studs here. So it's mixing in some different things opposed to when we are projected score where it's very strictly, it was Rory, one other spend, and then 4 cheapish plays. And then if you didn't have Rory, it was 3 spends and 3 values. So a little bit different.
Sort by price again for a second. I just want to show this too, because this actually leads to pretty much what you've said. If you go to exposure and scroll down now, so keep the exposure tab close by, or no, sorry, like stay by salary, but just
yeah. All right. I know you like the exposure column over more. Let's see if
we can start going through the tiers anyway, but I usually drag it over. But my point would be what you see here, why I was bringing it up, is when you look by the salaries, going back to your talk about how you thought the balance build might not be the way. Well, Saber score and projected score both. This is another thing. People think you're looking at it for picks and plays, and we can't talk enough about that not being the case. I'm also noticing a trend, and if you look at exposure and salary and go down to the balanced range, look at Hovland 8%, Sepp Straka 8%, Daniel Berger 6%, Shane Lowry 8%, 6%, 7%, 4%. It's telling you the build is some version of using multiple guys up top and some version of using multiple down low. And for everyone who's worried about ownership, but all those guys in the 7Ks are going to be owned. They can't all be owned. It's going to be spread out huge. There's options in the 6Ks that are great values and just as good as them that won't get any ownership really overall. So just another prime way to look at it, Hoop. It's not just for the tier plays like every other podcast or show is going to go through with you. We're using it to now see that from a roster construction standpoint, Saber score will give you a little bit of a portfolio. You'll have Berger in some lineups that make sense that are different and Straka, but your overall exposures to those guys are just not that high when building what it's seeing as good lineups. Doesn't mean they'll work, but just a note when you're looking at it. Anything else you got to add there?
No, I mean, in this question, like Scotty nuking last week will lead to Rory being higher owned. This Rory's going to be high owned, and he's probably going to get even more ownership. And to me, it's not necessarily because of what Scotty did last week. It's because of the price tag is too low at 12K and how easy it is to play him. So another week, different players. Like, maybe this has an impact. I don't personally think it has an impact. He's already going to have high ownership. It's probably going to go up even higher when people realize how easy it is to play him.
I agree fully. And that's the other thing that you're going to notice when you go through it. So anything else you've got to add just on the Saber side of things or anything else you want to look at there? If not, we could sort of talk through it a little bit from top down just to see and just have a look at who some of these guys are. But I still like having this up because we can see who it sort of wants us to play, who it likes. And that way, what we're thinking when we go through the ranges.
Yeah. Nothing really to add. We'll have more conversations as we go on. We already talked about Rory. He's, the best. What are his odds this week? Got to be pretty low, right? I didn't even look at that.
I honestly, that's why they're talking about the Scotty thing, I think, is just to break it down. But 5-1, give or take.
5-1. So he's like Scotty territory with this sort of thing at 12. It's going to be very popular. Again, I think he probably comes in higher than 50%. But that doesn't mean these other guys are going to be unowned. Like a lot of times when you see someone with this high ownership at 12K, that means, the other guys in the 10K range are going to be like unowned. Like, no, it's not the case because you can easily play them together. So that's why you're still seeing 17 on Morikawa, 17 on Xander, 16 on JT, and which I do think is the case. It's going to be a ton of Rory, and then the rest of these guys up there are just going to get spread out because people are going to want the little piece of everyone, and that's what's going to happen. For me, I think you kind of touched on it with JT. Like, his scoring is just crazy at these no-cut events recently. You talked about the spike rounds early on where you kind of need to shoot like a 62 or 63. Very capable of that. So he definitely stands out to me. Xander, I think, is a little underpriced. I think Morikawa might have not going to get squeezed a ton, but I think he could come in maybe a little bit lower, but it's going to be marginal amounts because they're all going to get some ownership. But the thing you said about like the spike rounds and JT scoring definitely stands out in my head. I think I want to make a play on him this week potentially.
Yeah. What's your thoughts on this too? I'm curious about this take because maybe I'll be honest and vulnerable and think out loud on this stuff. I could be an idiot, but I just think so Scotty last week was 3-1. Okay. The field was terrible versus this field. Like, the strength of the field was nowhere near what we've got right in front of us here. We look at the top of this board. Okay. Argument would be, but he's playing against double the golfers. But don't you just cross off, 80 of those golfers anyway? So I just don't ever see a world where Rory at 5-1 is the way. Know what I mean? It just doesn't make sense. There's legitimate top dudes right behind him. Scotty I had an argument with Mayo last week on the show because we disagree on this, and he's my buddy. I'm just saying it was like I said you cannot disagree the field strength. Yes, it's hard to win a golf tournament, etc. But Scotty could win by 10 because it's just, if he gets on, he's just way better than these guys. I don't think Rory is way better than.
To me, it's like you have to in your head, like, okay, last week before the tournament starts, right? You look at that field and pick out how many guys could you pick out from that field and say, all right, this guy has a chance to win the tournament. You'd feel pretty confident saying it. There wasn't many, right? I mean, you look at that field and there was just a few that you might say, all right, this guy has a chance. Here, you look at this field and you can definitely point to some guys that could win it. Like anyone up top, like Morikawa, Xander, JT, Ludwig, Cantlay, they could win this event. There's other guys that I think could potentially win this event. So to me, in my head, that's how I talk through that whole thing. I don't know if it's right. I don't know if it's wrong.
That's what I was saying. Yeah, that's when he said that. That's exactly what I was trying to think. I don't know if this is right, but for me, that's just an automatic first thought that it doesn't make sense. And it triggers some other things. And I'm not the golf bettor out there, so I'm not going to get into all that, but I'm just saying that sort of would, and I know no one's really betting him anyway, probably. I'm sure there's some people that are throwing $20 on him and things. Maybe he gets some handle that way. But my point being, I just wouldn't think of it as like that would even make sense to me. So I don't know. It just seems really odd to me. Like Scooter said, even in the larger fields, because the field was so weak, Scotty had massive win equity going in versus it's just not the case. So that just makes it interesting. I think there's something to be said. There's still some really good lineups you can build this week without Rory. I already mentioned my JT piece, and you sort of latched onto it. I like that. We're on the same page there. I'm still fine with Morikawa, regardless of ownership. And then I'll take it into the 9K first because it's a smaller range. But I would actually like the guys at the bottom more than top. So I'd like Ludwig, but then after that, it would actually probably be like Fleetwood and Spieth as guys that can just sort of grind through it and maybe get you that, 5 under round or, something like that, the strong round that I want to see versus just fairways and greens and that. So I think like Fleetwood, Spieth, those guys, maybe even, I don't know, what's Hovland been doing? Like, I don't want to play everybody.
He's been decent when he's played. He hasn't played since it was RBC Heritage.
I knew he got the win, but like since then. So yeah, so 21st and 13th. Yeah, I don't know. I don't have like I'm not super high on any of this, but I do think because I'm building some in sets and without Rory, I'm definitely going to be keying in on this lower 9K range and then Ludwig up top.
Yeah. Ludwig I do like. I mean, the one thing with him when he's on, like, he's going to have a chance to win basically any event, and he's a guy that can compete with those top end guys. When he's on, he can compete with Rory and Scotty, who's obviously not in this field, but he can compete with those guys when his game is on, and he can win events, and he doesn't get intimidated when he gets up to the top of the leaderboard. So it's a good call there. The other guy that it's kind of a gut feel / scoring thing is Spieth. He's looked a little bit better. No cut event. He's chipping in at least a couple times, right? He's going to chip in for eagle or birdie or something at some point, probably twice throughout this tournament. He just scores. He's good scoring, I think, for no cut event. So I kind of like Spieth this week, and he's been playing a little bit better, and I am not a Spieth guy. So take that for what it's worth.
Nice little run for him too. 4th last
Yeah.
week. And then before that, 18th, 14th, 12th, 28th. We've talked about how those, like again, last week the point was those don't necessarily add up for the price. But exactly what I said last week was those 12th, 14th, and 18th, that's 1 or 2 strokes from being all top 10s. And then people are like, oh, he's on a heater. Instead, it was sort of the opposite effect. But then he goes out and has a pretty good week, solid Sunday. Where's our guy Ryan, by the way, in the chat? EVR, man. He got robbed. Did you see? He had 4 amazing rounds and didn't even come close and still got smoked by Scotty. That's just crazy.
It is funny, though. It's like now anytime I see that dude's name, like Rin is the first person I think about.
I wonder, too, I'm not like the big ratings guy. I make fun of it for like TGL and stuff, but that had to be the worst rating of all time.
Had to be.
Is Scotty bad for the game? Like he's not super, he's the nicest guy in the world. And obviously he's like literally.
He's great for the game if he's playing against legitimate golfers. I mean, it goes to the same point. I mean, they've screwed themselves on these signature events. Like any non-major, non-signature event is going to have the shitty field. And I'd like them to, my piece of advice, and again, I don't know how this would work. And obviously they have different situations, but what they need to do is somehow guarantee that you're getting 10 legitimate guys in these non-signature events. Like maybe they do a draft or something. You have to sign up for some of these non-signature events and play them, or incentivize the FedEx Cup points a little bit differently. So there is some incentive for these dudes to play in these non-signature, non-major events. If not, this is what we're going to deal with. A couple high-end guys playing against minor league players. Everyone in that field was a minor league player last week, right? I mean, they're just not PGA Tour caliber players. And the ratings are going to be terrible. So, like, if Scotty was playing against good dudes, yeah, it's great for TV, but he's not. He's playing against, like, club pro sort of guys.
Also, I had this conversation last week with Mayo, and you just hinted at something that, you mentioned something that kind of hints at what I was thinking is I talked about MMA, and maybe you and I talked about it too, but it's like there's no main event last week. Scotty's the champion of the event, if you would call it, not from previous win. I'm saying like he's just the guy you would consider that would be in the main event, but where was his competitor? He didn't have one. UFC, you may only see a fighter once every year or once every 6 months, but when they are in there, they're shimmying. I know it's totally different. Don't come at me for that. Just saying in general,
I think it's a fair analogy.
It's what you said of you need to get 5 to 10 at every event.
Yes, have to.
And you're playing what do you want to go in the draft for? And then when it gets down to like the nitty gritty at the end, there's a few guys that maybe don't get necessarily what they want, but I just think it's like it'd be a better way to do it. And I saw this too. I don't think he was wrong. And I think the live bots are completely lost on this too. Like he said something about John Rahm is not Cristiano Ronaldo getting paid all that money. Do you think John Rahm doesn't know that? Why do you think he signed? He knows no one's worth that kind of money. And he's like, everyone that talks shit about the people that took money have never even seen 100,000 most likely on the table, let alone a million, let alone 500 million. You have no clue. Everyone, like 99.999% are click and sign. How quick can I sign that?
The crazy thing is, it's like it's so polarized because the numbers are so big, right? But you could go to anybody at any sort of job in any industry and present them with a live type of offer. Obviously, the numbers are going to be much smaller, right? I would say almost everybody would take it. If you're making $100,000 a year and someone shows up tomorrow and says, I'm going to hand you $300,000 to come take your talents over here, you're taking your talents over there 3 times as much, whatever the multiplier may be.
A lot.
90% of people are taking the damn money, and that's the right move. It's the proper move. So can't fault anyone.
I agree. 8K range, we looked at it on there a little bit. You got Hideki down to the Jason Day WD, of course, but Bobby Mack is right there at 8K as well. So like Bobby Mack, Minwoo, Keegan, Mav, my guy Sung Jae is in there. Lowry, Berger, Straka, Connors, Decky. What are we doing with this range?
Yeah, so ownership is showing that all these guys are between like 7 and 13. I think it's probably lower for a lot of these guys. Like Hideki, I don't think is getting to 13, so I think he's coming in lower. The only 2 that I think get not substantial. I think people are going to be fine playing Sepp. I think people are going to be fine playing Berger and maybe Lowry. I think everyone else has a chance to come in relatively low just because of the roster construction stuff. You're going to want to, people are going to want to play the guys up top. If you're playing multiple guys up top, you're just not going to get here all that often. I don't like Matsuyama, to be honest with you. He's one guy I'm fine just being off of this week. I mean, it's hard to make cuts, guys that you don't want in your player pool, but I'd be fine being away from him. I always play a little Corey Connors. I like Berger. I mean, Berger's been playing really well. He's probably my favorite here. And then, kind of coming down, Mav, a little bit of interest in. Min Woo really hasn't been playing great. Keegan Bradley, just not an exciting round. And they're just, to me, so much more win equity up top. And you start coming down to this lower rates, like, I don't know, like I just don't see a ton of difference between these dudes and then some of the guys in the lower seven. So it probably won't be a priority for me. But again, we talked about it when we went through these teams. If you like a lot of these guys, you do a mid-tier build, you're going to be way different. Do I think it's the optimal route this week? Absolutely not. But it's going to be different. That's for sure.
And you don't have to go all in. That's what even the Saber score showed. It was like Berger was in our best Saber score lineup, but he's only 6% or 8% overall to our exposure on 150. They're saying, here's a version of this. And that's what I think people get confused too, for sure. Let's say Berger is the most popular. Him or Sepp are likely to be the most popular in this range. Fair enough. But when that happens, people just immediately go, well, I got to pivot or I can't play him. It's like, no. How many people are running a JT Ludwig Berger lineup? And that plays just fine. You could have Ludwig could win, JT could score like crazy, and Berger could outdo a bunch of the guys above and below him, and you're still fitting in the 3 value plays at the bottom. So it's just a prime example that people don't really spend a lot of time on, that you could see how it's different still, but how it can work, not who you play, it's how you play them. That's definitely the one that I would key to there. I think the other guys you mentioned, like Connors, maybe the slower greens for once, just once. Come on, find that putter, because he hits the fairways. He hits the greens. Can he dial in a putter ever? But if you give him 4 full rounds, let's get a couple in there that he finds the putter, and the other 2, he won't. Maybe it's one of 4, but the other, 2 of the other 3 are okay. Let's say not going away from my guy Sung Jae. He's still scoring. He's still finding it. Like it's a bias for sure, but I love it in a no cut, specifically fairways, greens, make some putts. Sometimes that's a challenge for him, but if he does, he's in the mix. And then not too much that I love after that. Maybe, I don't know, maybe Keegan. Maybe Keegan. There's got to be something there, like the East Coast. I know it's Philadelphia. Yeah. It's not, Massachusetts, but it's like it's close enough to his home area. Everywhere. What do they say? Anytime he plays on the East Coast, there's like a hometown event. It doesn't matter. He just gets fired up for it. So maybe we see a little something out of Keegan there, but kind of like him at 8,100 as well. We'll see what happens, but not too much in that 8K range for me either, Hoop.
Yeah. 7K range, obviously a little bit bigger of a range. Sam Burns and Wyndham Clark at the top are names, but obviously not having the greatest seasons. If I was going to choose one, I'd probably side Wyndham. I typically play Wyndham. I like Wyndham a little bit more straight up than Burns. So if decided between one of those two, I think Novak has a chance to get some steam here. I mean, won the team event. Has had some good finishes outside of that. Rye, Thompson. I don't know. I'm not thrilled with the names up here. I mean, honestly, come down and I don't see much of a difference again between like these upper tier guys and the lower 7K guys. Tony Finau at 7.4, stands out as, wow, that guy used to, like last year in this event, he's probably 9K. Now he's 74 because he's played like absolute dog shit. And, if this is a course where you don't need to be super long, like, I don't know. Ben Griffin, I think, is fine. I always like myself some Poston. Taylor Pendrith, I obviously always play. Michael Kim, I've been playing. So I like the lower sevens much more than the upper sevens. Even Akshay at 7,100, I prefer over some of these guys up top. So just, some of my favorites are for sure down here. Griffin, Pendrith, Akshay, and Michael Kim at 7K flat are probably my 4 or 5 favorite guys in the 7K range.
Yeah, we'll see how the ownership actually comes in, but I'm going to take on some of the volatility. Like you talked about it with Akshay, miscut, 42nd miscut, don't care. Because guess what? When he had good finishes, for the 3 events before that, they were 3rd, 9th, and 9th. And it's a no cut. Like I get 2 good Akshay rounds, that kind of price tag, I'm interested. So it's not really that much about who I like down here. I just think to say it's going to be spread out a little bit more. There's already some stuff up on the site. Lee Aldrich, his value report is free every week, so you guys can go check it out. I'll spoiler a couple. It's got Justin Rose in there, which may surprise some, but he makes sense. And then there's a couple others in there as well, too. So go check it out. It's free, ShipItNation.com. Go under PGA and click Value Report. You can see that for free. It's a good little starter piece with 6 guys in there with some good breakdowns on how he picked them and got to them. But scoring-wise, you mentioned like Burns and Clark up top. The other thing I'll say about Novak is, what did we get on exposure to Novak? Go there for a second, and let's try and look real quick because we're not going to spend too much more time in Saber probably. What do we got on Novak for exposure?
Just 6%.
And when you change it back to projected score, is it – and again, I could have just probably saw it and looked from experience, but I'm just more curious. This is fast.
Nothing.
So does that surprise you? Because you'd think, again, this type of event, he fits almost every build. He's under the average. The team win, throw it out the window. You shouldn't, but you can. But second before that in a signature. Third before that. Like he's been playing great golf.
Yeah. Well, it's just all the projection. And he's not projected I guess he's projected actually a little bit lower than everyone around him. And these are same projections. Our projections could look a little bit different. If I went and changed this to, 64.5, if I changed it to 66 and reran the teams, we'd get a lot more Novak. I mean, it's simply the fact that, the projection doesn't stand out here. It's not like he's showing 1% ownership. So like the Saber lineups are going to want to push him in. Like if we did sort of by Saber score, there's nothing that stands out here to really force him into our lineup. So this is a situation, if you do like Novak and you are using this set of projections and ownership, you're just going to have to use the min max and say, you know what, I want at least 10%. Andrew Novak, hit apply. Now he's in 10% of your lineups. But again, our projections and ownership could look different, and they are going to look different. It's just a matter of how much.
Yeah, and then I want, like, for me, I just think about that sometimes where a lot of people be like, well, he can't do it again, and so I'm not even going to bother. But he'll get some ownership. I'm not saying that. It's more just like, to your point there, and what I'm seeing is a lot more people are going to play the others around him. This would fit with what we talked about earlier with Andrew, where we're saying, like, if something stands out to you, it's literally, like you mentioned, it's 2 points of projection, and the whole atmosphere changes for your lineup. So I think that I'm always looking at stuff like that. It does look like Pendrith, Michael Kim, guys like that will be a bit more popular. But, interesting things, like a couple other stuff. So Keith Mitchell got into this late. He's been playing some better golf lately, and I'm not sure. People don't seem to like that guy, even though he's another guy that sort of fits the mold of like the Novak stuff, where he's played well, he could score well. I have no problem with him. I think Rye, Rose, even Harman. Harman doesn't have the distance, but hits fairways, can make birdies. I think someone like him could pop in there. And then JT Poston at the bottom. I already talked about Akshay. That's just a few of the guys that obviously, the Penders and the Kims stand out, but I would take shots on those guys. And it would be a segue going into the upper 6K range, just talking about that volatility. Theegala, 6,900. I really don't care anything about what he's done for anybody lately, because guess what? It's a totally new event at hand. So just little things like that. I don't know if you see something different. He's been okay anyway. The team event doesn't, again, I don't necessarily throw it out, but even if you didn't want to count it, the 29th before that, the 36th recently, like he's still in the mix. 6,900 sort of baked in. So I kind of like that pricing for a guy like him. My guy Steven Yeager is down there. Lucas Glover sometimes. We're talking hitting fairways and the capability of making birdies. I mean, Ryan Gerard has been making birdies lately. We see him. Thorpe is down there. I think he's good, Thor. And then EVR is a guy that may pick up steam after last week, but he's there's still like Bridgman and Highsmith down there as well. So there's a few guys who you can play in this range.
Yeah, just talking about Theegala, I mean, cheaper than we've ever seen him. Obviously, he hasn't been playing well. With 6,900, I'll take a chance, like for sure. And you talk about guys that get those spike rounds of 62 or 63. That's Theegala to a T. So definitely in on him. Yeager score. I'm looking for guys that I think can score down here. Grazerman, I do like it at 66. I think he stands out. You mentioned Gerard. Adam Scott has not been great. 6,500. Bridgman interested in a little bit. Ricky Fowler, some interest there. Highsmith potentially. Depending on what you're doing, how many teams you're building. Like if you are going to jam Rory, let's say you're going to play him 70%, and you still want exposure to the Morikawas and the Xanders and the JTs and the Ludwigs, you just got to get comfortable down here and take some chances. There's going to be a couple of these guys at least that score well enough to potentially be on the optimal. So I'm good with just about anything down here. I rattled off some of my favorites, but there's not many guys where I say, all right, I'm definitely just not playing this guy because he's in the 6K range. So open to a lot down here.
Yeah, and it's like you said, it's all how you build it. It's all what you're going after and what you're putting into your lineups. But I definitely think that's what it would be. I was surprised. I just got the ratings came in actually just after we talked about it there. So that's funny. It says Scotty's dominating win was up 66%. So it went up to 2.9 million viewers from 1.75 last year for Taylor Pendrith, and then up from Day the year before at 2.32 million. So interesting that they still got the viewers there for that. But I just think it's like, man, Scotty's a name for sure. He's literally the best right now. And obviously Rory, and you could debate it, but Scotty's just been on a tear forever. But it was like, I don't know how you could be into that with just the blowout and everything that was going on. It was just a tough scene. I wasn't super thrilled about it, but
yeah, it's not exciting stuff. That's for sure.
And like this type of thing, I mean, you can change this back. That's fine. Go ahead.
All right.
Just like you can get tools for that if you have all the different tool sites out there you can check out for golf stats and find it, but it's just going to be too small of a sample. You're not going to be able to use that really to your advantage. It would just be a product of, if it happened, then great, but it's way more the volatility on that stuff is so huge. It's more of setting your pool, having your process, and realistically, that's the nice thing about Sabersim is what we've talked about a bunch, and just to bring it up again, but if you don't want to make the decision to decide between a Sepp Straka and Berger because of quote unquote ownership or too high or whatever it is that you think, you can just leave them in your pool with Sabersim and let it do the work for you, right? Let it go through and break it all down to show you what's what and grind it from there. So you'll start seeing how you can play those options without having to completely move off them just because someone told you they're a chalk play or something like that. Back to the theme of the show that we've been talking about the entire time. So
yeah, it was a nice week though when you look at it. I mean, really, Rory's going to be very popular, and it seems relatively spread out, to be honest with you. Like there's not much after him that's like, oh man, this guy's going to be super high owned, which pretty rare, I'd say, for a signature event with only 72 golfers in it. Like there's just no one else is showing up as massively owned. And there are guys that will get steam and more popular throughout the week, but I'd say pretty unique overall, where like it should be spread out.
Yeah. Oliver said public loves a front runner. I mean, that's definitely a possibility.
True. Yeah. They like dominance too. I mean, people love these, the runs, these teams, dominant teams, dominant players. Like the public does like that. So that's a good point. I mean, yeah, Tiger was beating a bunch of minor league dudes back in the day, and the ratings were probably the best golf was ever at when Tiger was on his run.
Yeah. All right. Splash segment. You got it up there now. This thing feels slowly, but I know last week it still got to, I think, 499 or something in that range. So there was a little bit of, there was a little less than filled, but it's guaranteed. That's the nice thing about this. It's $5,000, totally guaranteed, extremely low rake. It's like 9 or 10% for the rake. It's very easy to play. I don't know if you got it up there, Hoop, and you can just go through it, but the breakdown.
Payout's nice and flat. I mean, 750, 625, 500, 375, 250. So it's not like one of those contests where you finish 10th and you get like nothing. Like you finish 10th here. You are 15xing your money, which is still nice. So
play against a smaller field too. Yeah. There's some casuals that come over from the pools and stuff like that, which I think is big. Obviously, pools are just taking off right now, so I love that. And then I'm just trying to look because what was it? 750, then 6 something, and then what is
650, 625, 500, 375, 250, 150, 75, 50. 20. I mean, it's such a solid payout, like such a solid payout structure. That's the worst when you enter a contest and you finish in the top 10 and you feel like you're not getting it. Like the difference between first and 10th. In some contests are just absolutely insane. This is, you don't feel so bad about 10th. You're still 15xing your money.
This is what's crazy. I'm bringing this up. Like, obviously we love DraftKings. We do everything on both sites. Like it's what it's all about. But just to note for somebody to add this to their repertoire is $10. If you play the $12 single entry on DraftKings, and it is one of those, 30K prize pools, 3K to first, 300 to 10th. It's the nicest structure that you can really find out there. So I'm not saying not to play it. Maybe it's both. I'm just saying third place in that 2,900 person tournament is 750.
Yeah, that is crazy. That is nuts.
Crazy, man. Like that's
the
nice thing about it. So that like whatever that was, I think it was a 12th place or something in this tournament pays a lot more. So just in general, when you're comparing things across sites, I think that's something to look at. And this is really easy to play.
Yeah. So yeah, just going through the tiers, looking at tier 1, obviously same as on DraftKings. Rory is going to be very popular in tier 1 over here. Rory is going to be very popular. I think, people will click JT, people will click Morikawa, people will click Xander, maybe Cantlay, but outside of that, very low owned options if you want them. Like
they put them in one hole too, so it's just so easy.
Yeah, so easy just to click it. Henley probably unclicked here, Fleetwood unclicked, Hideki, Connors, Shane Lowry. But again, if you do click those names, they got to beat some big boys. We talked about JT, like we both like JT. So let's click his name here. Into tier 2, Straka, Ludwig, Berger, Hovland, McCarthy. Geez, McCarthy's in here. No one's going to want that one. Bradley, McNeely. Definitely don't click Jason Day, but at least they show you here. WD.
They're on top of it. That's nice.
Yeah. Ludwig will be popular here. Now I don't know what, he's not in tier 1 like all the other dudes are over in tier 1. He's not in tier 1. He'll be very popular here. I'm just trying to find a name that we both for the sake of the show and sake of our relationship, I'm gonna go ahead and click Sungjae for us
in tier 2. But I will say the interesting thing, and you don't have to go back just to note it, is that's another way, Hoop, that you could spread your exposure out. If you didn't like Straka and Berger, you weren't getting much in your player pool. We know Ludwig is going to be super popular here. He just stands out like a sore thumb because he's not in tier 1. Obviously, if you know PGA and you like Sungjae like me, you just click Sungjae and move on. Yep. But I think if you want to spread your exposure out on a Straka or Berger, that could be the place to get it as well.
Yep. Agree with you. Tier 3, some other names here. We talked about Novak playing well, Burns. Just looking at this, I'd imagine pretty spread out, right? I don't see anything that stands out as like, all right, this is going to be the guy.
By the way, too, how easy the game is to play, the more you can apply the game theory piece to it as well. And that's why it's multi-entry and you can put more in. If you know tier 3 is the place to spread it out, that's where it's going to be spread out. That's where you could take stands or you can make your own moves. But remember, you get to drop a golfer as well. So I'd be taking like a Siwoo or an Akshay, or I'd take something here that's high risk. Like just give it to me and see what happens. If they are the good round, way less people are going to have them. But if they're the bad round, we could just end up dropping a golfer. So I would take risk in a spot like this.
I like the Akshay call here. Tier 4. Okay, so Jordan Spieth is going to be very popular. He's in this tier. He arguably could be in tier 1. Definitely at least tier 2. He's in 4. And his odds to win the event compared to these other guys, it's going to look drastically different. So anything outside of him should be lowish owned. Benny, we didn't talk about him actually when we're going through the DK stuff, but I actually don't mind him here at all. I don't even know what his price is on DraftKings. But
73 on DraftKings. I did a double look as well because it's like interesting. We didn't even bring him up, but
yeah, we didn't bring him up. I like him. We talked about Keith Mitchell a little bit, Tony Finau, Ben Griffin. I like a lot of guys I like here. So like Spieth is going to be popular, but I'm fine like not playing the popular guy here and going a little different.
If you've got Rory, Ludwig, and then clicking Spieth here, like, yeah, you're already the same as everybody else. We're different. If we wanted to go and we could, but I'm fine going to somebody else. And you mentioned Ben on. I'd be fine rolling Benny and move on.
Yep. Tier 5, Jaeger, Rose, English, Grazerman, Hoagie, Gerard. So these are more like the 6K guys on DraftKings that we talked about. Sahith as well. Should be spread out. I don't think there's anything that is super obvious here. Names that haven't been golfing well, Zalatoris, Adam Scott, but should be a spread out range. I know you like Jaeger, right?
For our boy Lee.
Huh?
Let's go Jay Rose for our boy Lee. We got him in the balance this week. Let's give him a shot.
Beautiful.
Rolling.
And then you get to tier 6 and it's all the leftovers. Clearly, let's see, is there a name here that, looks to be out of place? No, imagine just another range where super, super spread out because you have way, way more options to choose from. EVR, I didn't even realize Higo's in the field. Wow, okay. He must be way down on the draft.
That's one thing too. How much does he go this week?
Got to be cheap over there.
60.
I'm picking my boy Kirky. I love Kirky, so going Kirky. That's what we got. But yeah, I mean, just easy format.
Higo stole the win at the Corrales.
Yes, that's right. Yeah.
So he's 6,100 down there on DraftKings too. But yeah, I like the Kirky call, and that's like, look at this. Like, I feel pretty good about Thomas, Im, and Rose, and then one of Bati or Kirk has to come through. And you got a different build. You don't have all the chalk with the other guys with Rory and Ludwig and Spieth, where it all just makes perfect sense, and you still got a chance to get there. This is the line.
Easy format to build teams, easy scoring structure where it's just by strokes, easy to follow. It's fun. And the app is very user friendly too. So you can just go on there and click the name. It's probably easier on the app, even on the than the desktop. So fun format, $10. Let's fill it up, and then we can get these prize pools even bigger.
That's the goal. And I like too the nice thing, because you can put multi-entry in, is like loading another one, not right now, but just in general.
Yeah.
And if you like, now you know sort of what the tiers look like, then I will do some where maybe some people overthink it, and those plays are just priced wrong. And I'll look at something like the Rory, Spieth, Ludwig, but then I'll plug in my Sahith and my something else. It's like, damn, I could get like an all-star roster with my outliers. And if it comes through, we're all good. But hopefully this was helpful, guys. If you want to check out ShipItNation.com, we did not take this down. So now's the time. Even if you're just using it for a week, this is less than our weekly price, but you'll be able to get the major next week. You'll be able to get the Charles Schwab. You'll be able to get the Memorial. You'll be on your way almost in the next month to the US Open. But just to note, all you do is go to the site. It's you can get started. It's the $99 a month plan. It gets you set up for $24 for your first month. Any final thoughts, Soup, before we get out of here?
No, as always, like I said, prize pools are nice and big. All our content will be up very early. Discord community, very friendly. I mean, people are talking golf all week long. MLB's going on. I mean, that deal, the DGen 75 deal, is the best, most affordable deal in the industry. Great value. Love to have you. And $24 a month, you're basically getting $24 for the first month. You're basically getting all our content. You are getting all our content. So great deal. We'd love to have you.
Yeah, check it out. If you guys have any questions, hit me up personally or just send an email to info@shipitnation.com. We'll help take care of you. There's a ton of different ways to get you in. That's going to do it for this one, guys. Good luck this week. For Hoop, for myself, ToeTagginTambo, let's ship it.